Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of the Suited Shootist. Today we're going to be talking about gear, kinda, but not in the same way that a lot of pages do. For whatever reason, there's some conversations I've had over the last few weeks. Guys seem to seek to spend as little money as possible on their clothing, unless, quote, there's a good reason. And generally, that good reason is safety or work related. So it's either going to be something like motorcycle leathers, or they work in a machine shop or some other kind of very hard use environment, and they need their clothing to stand up to the rigors of that. Well, here's the thing: why not look for that same kind of longevity in your day-to-day clothing as well? There's a few good reasons for it. Number one, think about it this way: if you hate to shop for clothes, then why not shop for clothes in a manner that keeps you from having to shop for clothes more frequently? Would you rather shop for clothes every 2 years or every 5 years? That math right there is pretty easy. The other part is that for whatever reason, spending money on clothing is viewed as frivolous, superfluous, somehow wasteful, when really it's the contrary. Again, it kind of goes back to the cost per wear thing. The stuff that you're buying at like Walmart, H&M, and even most of the major department stores, for all intents and purposes, is disposable. And there's not going to be a whole lot of lifespan in a particular garment. Now, granted, there are certain things in my closet that I treat as disposable. Generally, anything that touches my skin. So socks, underwear, undershirts, workout gear, to an extent, and white dress shirts, just because they tarnish over time, and especially just with my particular body chemistry, cuffs and collars go yellow in about 3 or 4 years. So from that standpoint, unless I'm going to go completely custom and like the old school route where cuffs and collars were physically detachable from the shirts, but I'm not quite there yet. And the other part is it's not just that, but there's this concept that Antonio Centeno over at Real Men Real Style talks about, enclothed cognition, and it is the psychological impact that dressing well has on the wearer. And I can tell you that when I am put together, I feel like I got a little more swagger, I got a little more confidence, I walk a little taller. And it's not necessarily how expensive the item is, but there is a correlation, at least in my closet, between what an item costs and the build quality. And that's really the important part. And this is probably what keeps a lot of folks from getting deeper into it is, yeah, there are a ton of, fashion designers out there where you're literally just paying for the label and you're not getting the actual quality that the company was built on. Hermes was famous for their leather work initially. And frankly, their ties and their silk stuff, still pretty awesome. So some of it's still worth the money, but not all of it. Gucci, same way. They were a saddle and bridle maker. So again, leather work. So when they started shifting into shoes at that period, it made sense. But like a freaking sweatshirt for $600, no, of course, that's ridiculous. But if you're paying for quality and you're paying for construction, you're going to get lifespan out of it. And there is a certain tangible difference. I'm wearing probably some of the more expensive items in my closet right now. It's an Isaiah sports jacket, it's a Catan dress shirt, and my Hoyer moniker. Now, here's the thing. There's nothing about any of this that is particularly garish or loud. Yeah, the watch is a little big, and the fact that it's a square face is, kind of deviates from the norm. But none of this is really loud. However, when you put it side by side with, department store clothing and department store watches, there's still a notable distinction between them. The polish of the steel, the texture of the jacket, and the iridescence of the mother of pearl buttons, the stitching on the shirt, specifically the how the buttons are attached, because that's only done by hand. You can't do that on a machine. Uh, Little things like that. And this is stuff that'll last me, 5, 10 years or more if I take good care of it. So if you're in a position where you are evolving and developing your style, it's probably worth spending money on, the real staples, the fail safes, the dark denim, a good pair of leather shoes, that kind of stuff. But I want to push back on this idea that it's somehow frivolous to spend money on clothing, because a lot of these same people will, almost without thinking, drop the better part of $2,000 on a pistol. And sure, you can make the argument that, well, the stakes in which that is going to have to perform is dramatically higher. Yeah, sure, of course. It's emergency life-saving rescue equipment. But you're spending that much money, a very narrow sliver of your overall life. And think about, you hear when people start shopping for like mattresses and sheets, well, you got to spend good money on because that's a third of your life. Well, the other 2/3, you're, for the most part, wearing clothing of some sort. So even if you're just spending money on better underwear, to kind of pull from Memphis's comments from last week's video, spend a little money on some clothing. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wasteful about it. And again, on the grand scheme, if it's done properly, it's less wasteful because, the whole $50 boot theory, where if you can only afford a $50 pair of boots, then, obviously I'm not suggesting people go into credit card debt for this kind of thing. But if you can buy the $500 pair of boots and it lasts you a decade, as opposed to a $50 pair of boots every year, there are things that are worth spending the money on. And you'd be surprised how it can affect you, because I'll talk to him and see if he'll let me share it as well. But my buddy Mike Branson over at Gideon Optics, I helped him pick out the suit for his wedding. And I have another friend of mine who was in a wedding and needed some help with a suit. And both of them commented that not only was the suit that I helped them select the most comfortable one they'd ever worn, but they felt amazing when they put it on. And so at the end of the day, you're worth spending money on. And we've all seen kind of the meme of, my wife said we're going out and she wants me to wear my most expensive outfit. And then the next panel is, again, it's either motorcycle leathers or like a full suit of armor or some kind of cosplay or a plate carrier and nods. And it's a cute laugh. But at the same time, why not have a couple of nice outfits that are reasonably general purpose, so that way, when called upon, even if it's a place you don't particularly want to go, you don't feel like you're walking around in a clown suit the whole time, contributing to a miserable experience. There's a lot of value to this. And if done intelligently, it's not exorbitantly expensive. I've talked about this before. None of my, sort of designer clothing I've paid retail for. I couldn't have the closet that I did if I paid MSRP for everything. So I'm basically paying department store retail, but I'm just getting a dramatically higher quality of product because of the care and the effort that I'm going into the item selection. So I want to hear a couple things. Number one, if you're one of those folks that is very resistant to spending money on clothing, or if you don't see a good reason for it, why not? And I'm not trying to start a fight here. I'm legitimately curious, because value is a very subjective thing. And so, I'm going to use a fairly universal article of clothing because, suits, jackets, okay, yeah, that's definitely a little bit more niche. But what is, for example, keeping you from spending $50 or $80 or $120 on a pair of jeans, as opposed to the $20 or $30 you can get them off Amazon or Walmart? What is holding you back, or what do you feel is the limiting factor there? Why do you feel it's not worth it? Also, if you are someone that has shifted that perspective and found that it makes sense to spend a little bit more money on higher quality pieces, what was the tipping point for you? I want to hear that as well. With dress clothing, it's relatively easy because it's going to be the construction and it's going to be the materials. And the truth is, it's the same thing, even if you're talking about a pair of leather boots or a pair of jeans. But there's everybody's motivation is different. I want to hear people's experience on this. So put that down in the comments. Other than that, hope it is a fantastic week. Stay dangerous and stay sharp.